Hello, everybody. It's Shufflebus Thursday night. Ashes Thursday. Ashes Tuesday, Ashes Thursday. We don't do anything else but Ashes anymore, Neil. At some point, I actually should come up with like a real intro for just Ashes content because, yeah, we don't do anything but Ashes anymore. What's up, Inquisitor? How are you tonight, man? Good to see you. So, man, Neil coming right in with a resub right off the top here.
Yeah, it prompted me.
That's funny. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of a lull in the Shufflebus Season 3 action. We do have Inquisitor and Doktarr squaring off tonight, so we do have a Herald and Leo match coming up in about an hour from now. But for
this is
now,
the deck I'm super excited to see.
Yeah, it's the Canyon Shelter,
it's
right?
The Canyon Shelter deck.
Yeah. We talked about it in the previous season that it was one of those kind of decks we hope we got to see on stream at some point.
I don't know
here.
if it's going to do anything. It might do nothing, but I'm excited to see it do nothing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think up to this point, Doktarr is 0-2, but let me double check here to make sure. Yeah, currently 0-2, so hasn't at least won his first two matchups, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the deck does nothing. It can be bad matchups, and you never know. So it'll be exciting to see this list at work. I love Herald, you know that. Everybody knows that I love Herald, and I think that this is the kind of thing that I want to see if Herald can get out of the slow grindy kind of control mill decks that we saw from season 4.
And unfortunately, I don't know that this matchup looks very good for him.
Sure.
Because he's definitely going to lose the mill race, and I don't know that he has enough pressure to get there. But we'll see. I mean, he has like a Frostback and Massive Growth, so maybe he gets through.
Certainly, and we've seen Inquisitor's deck on stream a couple of times already this season, just because his opponents all want to stream on stream, and we're welcome. Always glad to have Inquisitor back on stream. So, excited to see how this matchup fares for the Leo deck. Also, because I think Inquisitors have been having, a pretty rough season. I mean, he had a really, really close match with Schmendrix in round 2. We saw that match
That game was cool.
Yeah, I saw your deck tech earlier on him, Inquisitor. I not your style of Herald is not my style of Herald. I appreciate the deck tech though. It is a cool style, and obviously got you to a season 4 championship. So it's obviously very good. I'm still.
That is also not this deck.
Yeah. No, they're very different approaches to how to play. I
assume that it was a deck tech from your season 4 list.
Yeah, he updated the list, so it's an updated version of his season 4 Shufflebus list, which is awesome, and obviously has proven itself under a gauntlet of a lot of great decks, including many Herald mirrors that he faced going into that that final. So, and I think
I think that unfortunately this current meta with the new cards in it is less friendly to Herald. I mean, Herald will always be powerful to a certain extent, but I think his utility was really like his wheelhouse was really big threats, and now we're seeing like many more little threats.
Right. I mean,
that turns him off.
There's probably still a place for him, but you're going to do a lot more like Hunter's Mark into this O2 with your 1/1, right? Like it's not going to be take your 2/3 into a 4 life unit very often. It can still do that.
It's so much less impactful when you're spending like your 1 die unit and the Hunter's Mark to kill their 1 die unit,
right?
Instead of spending your 1 or 2 die unit and the Hunter's Mark to trade up,
right? Obviously, that's just like living the dream. We were talking about this dice exchange today, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. We're like obviously Frostback Bear is still single-handedly one of the most powerful conjurations in the game, and it's
also this. I'll stop you just real quick, and I'll let you go again. I had a short conversation with now I can't remember who I played, but we were just messing around on Ashteki. I think Frostback Bear is extremely important to exist.
Sure.
Like, that the game would suck without it.
I agree.
But we can talk about that after your.
Yeah. Well, it was just talking about how, from a dice identity perspective, I mean, Kaya has been getting numbers out about season 5 periodically here as he's working through that, and 60% of the dice spread in Shufflebus season 5 is nature, and that's a pretty high number, right? Like that's a pretty high number when you think about all the dice that every player brings. There's 44 players that showed up, so there were 440. There were 440 dice represented, and 60% of those are nature dice.
Yeah, I mean that sounds about right.
Right, but that's a lot.
I believe
right?
you anyway.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, I'm basing this off of Kaya's information. So nature's really high up there, but the reason I think nature's really high up there is in part to a few things, at least in my mind. Obviously, Butterfly Monk is extremely good. We know Butterfly Monk's extremely good. Molten Gold is like the single best reach card in the game to finish games early, right, and reduce the amount of health a Phoenixborn can have. Plus, it is a good removal tool in of itself. And then finally, you've got Frostback Bear. And Frostback Bear is single-handedly one of the best and most powerful conjurations. Now,
you missed one extra thing. Raptor Herder is also very important.
Oh, for sure. But you can play Raptor Herder in Sympathy, so I don't think Raptor Herder is directly influencing the dice decision as much.
I think it is.
Okay.
Because if you're playing a deck that wants Raptor Herder, you're right that you do have the option to play it off of a Sympathy dice.
Right.
But I would be curious to see how many decks are playing a Raptor Herder with no nature dice, because I bet it's very, very small.
Oh, I agree. But how many of those decks also are not playing a Frostback Bear, and it's probably also very small.
And Killer puts in the chat also Nature's Wrath.
Yeah.
Obviously a very good card.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember looking at the list, and obviously books are a little different than allies in count, because nobody's going to play more than one Frostback Bear book.
Right.
But the highest played card of all cards was Raptor Herder.
Right.
And
well, so my point with this was where I was leading down this road was, what if Squall Scion, because it's got a very similar cost to Frostback Bear, what if it had a similar sort of impact on the game? It doesn't. I want to be clear, but let's live in a magical Christmas land where somehow Squall Stallion is as impactful on the game as Frostback Bear is. It wouldn't downplay Raptor Herder, right? Raptor Herder would still be playable because now you're on the sympathy side, but you've got essentially sympathy's version of Frostback Bear, and you've got you lose some access tools, right? Nature's Wrath is a great example of like sympathy when you play a pure sympathy deck. It's really hard to deal with wide board states because you don't have those sweeps available. And actually, just about any other color outside of nature, it's a real problem. But when we start talking about these things in greater detail, nature just currently possesses some of the most competitive cards in the game. Just does.
Well, yeah, and it has the most cards that affect things in play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most important thing in Ashes. So
right, absolutely. So my point, so there was some conversation. I obviously you brought up a point like Bear needs to exist in the game. I agree with you. Bear needs to exist in the game. We also need to see these other colors get some support in some way. And I don't know what that looks like. That's not my job as a designer to figure that out, right? Like it's on Nick and Plaid Hat to figure out how to make the other colors be also powerful, and be real choices. Now, do you run nature, or do you run divine, or do you run ceremonial? There's this this dichotomy that needs to exist in between the dice colors in order to create those options, right? Because I do think, Inquisitor makes a good point. Like he says, we just need some side grade options. I'm kind of bored with Bear and Three-Eyed Owl being so effective. High hopes for tools and Tristan that Tristan and Diamona bring. And he makes a very good point, right? Because the best decks are running Bear and Three-Eyed Owl, and in a lot of cases, also the Mindfog Owl on the back end of that, right? We got a lot of really cool cards this season, for sure. And we saw Charm bounce up in value this season, for sure, compared to past seasons. And those are all fantastic. That's awesome. That's the kind of thing we need to see, right? As more sets are printed in other colors, you get this opportunity to create a more diversified and wider card pool that's not just relying on what I would call, I don't know what the numbers are, right? And this is going to be wildly off base, and you'll probably debate me the minute I say it, but let's just say 40% of the deck is this nature suite of Nature's Wrath and Molten Gold and Frostback Bear and maybe Butterfly Monk, and then you're like, okay, the rest of the deck is my support colors for that core. That's my core. And I wonder if that's going to be possible to unseat. And if it is,
not.
well, not in this current iteration of the card pool, right? But
I think that printing cards better than those cards would be a mistake.
Okay. So how do you see Ashes then as a game, getting away from that core?
Well, the decks we're seeing this season operate quite differently than a lot of the decks we saw do well last season.
Sure.
Obviously 4-book still exists. It existed in both seasons, but 4-book is much more prevalent now than it was before. And the 4-book decks are doing better this season than last season. What that was dominated by the Three-Eyed Owl, Herald stuff.
Sure.
So I think that just saying saying that a color needs to be better is simplifying it too much, because I don't believe that the colors should be balanced. I don't think that's a goal that you could feasibly reach.
Sure.
And especially in a card pool of this size, where we essentially have one Magic set's worth of cards, right?
Yeah, but it's a little different, right? Because in a single Magic set of cards, you're color restricted, right? I know it's kind of similar, but it's kind of not. I don't know.
I'm just talking about the literal number of.
I know, but I think that's kind of a. it's kind of a weird like thing where I'm not sure that you can actually directly compare a magic set to the size of the card pool for Ashes because um it kind of gets to this weird spot where like in the Ashes card pool, more or less, every single card is available for every single deck, right? Like you can pick and choose because like in Magic, you are still restricted by the colors in the sense of how many lands you're willing to run. So it's really difficult to be like, well, I could run a 7-color Magic. Well, obviously there's not 7 colors Magic, but you know what I'm saying. Like in Ashes, you can try to run a 7-color deck in Ashes if you want, right? Like and we see a lot of 3 and 4 color decks. You would never see a 4-color deck in Magic, at least not a competitive one. I mean, the stretch.
That's not true. Like, it depends on the format, obviously, but
Sure.
like usually in Standard, there are 3-color decks splashing some random powerful card in a 4th color. Like, that just happens all the time. All Legacy decks are 4 colors. Like, all Modern decks are 4 colors, except for like the super aggro ones. But in general, like, I just mean we have this small number of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And just saying like there should be essentially like X number of books, X number of units, X number of spells in every color that are all like pretty similarly powerful. When you start doing that, you take away the identity of the color.
Sure.
Like think about Divine. Divine is a good example, I think, because it has a lot of powerful cards, but you never see anybody like core Divine because its core threats are not efficient.
Sure.
But it has things like Shepherd, it has things like Meteor, it has things like the laws, that are these very unique effects that are powerful that, and obviously the Knights, like this will be a conversation for every color, the Knights, like Swordsman is extremely good.
Sure.
And so it gives you incentive to want to play a little bit of Divine, but because their core threats are not as efficient as other colors, you don't want to play core Divine because you do want to win the game.
But I don't think you can say core color like its core efficiency is not better than other colors. Its core efficiency is not better than nature. I think we should just call a spade, right? Like and just embrace that nature has the best core shell in the game. Just
I don't think its core is better than like Ceremonial or Charm.
Interesting. So, what do you see as the ceremonial core? Because when I look at the ceremonial pool, I see a lot of support cards. I don't see a core.
Depends on if you count Swordsman. Like Sonic Swordsman is an excellent like.
But that's not a ceremonial card.
Like core win. Oh, sorry, ceremonial. So ceremonial, I think the core is not guys. It's like Fester and Bloodchains.
Right, but that can't win you games on their own, right? They can help you win games, but they're not going to actually advance your win con. Right? Frostback Bear advances your win con.
The splash guys for that color are also very good. Hammer Knight and Master Vampire. And I actually really think Bomber's very good. I don't know if a lot of people are playing it, but
so Matt Greenleaf's asking, is there a dice color that is specifically good against nature? Otherwise, the rock paper scissors aspect breaks down a little bit. Yeah, it's a good question, Matt. I don't think so, personally.
I mean, but why are we using nature as the definer? Is my question. Like,
well, because we've got 5 seasons of nature dominating.
But again, like the decks that have nature in them are not all the same deck, and some of them function wildly different than others.
Sure.
But just because they have a Frostback Bear in them doesn't make them a Frostback Bear deck. Like,
okay, so
this is why I was saying at the beginning that I think breaking it down by color specifically is not good. Like, it's just you're not going to get anywhere, and you're going to feel bad because you're going to end up in the situation you're in now, where you're like, "Oh, these nature cards are too good. I guess the game's broke." Like,
no, I'm not saying the game's broke.
You can't come to another conclusion if that's how you look at it. So we look at it through the lens of like what decks do. And just because there's a slot in a lot of decks that Frostback Bear fills doesn't mean that those decks are similar, or even that Frostback Bear does the same thing in those decks that it does in other decks.
Sure.
And So just saying, like, do we need to dethrone nature? I don't think so. Like, if your goal is just to print a card better than Frostback Bear, we're just going to start, power creeping the game.
Sure, but I mean, okay, so that leads to me another point, but I wanna continue this conversation just for a second here. The nature die power is big too, is what Cactus is saying. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not specifically arguing, but my question is, let's just take a hypothetical world for a second, just a hypothetical. If nature die power is good, and the other cards that we mentioned, Molten Gold, Butterfly Monk, Nature's Wrath, if those are good enough to be competitive cards, if Frostback Bear ceased to exist, or was banned, chained, whatever you want to say, like, would the game be better or worse? And I know you say that, but let me back this up. I'm collecting the data right now live because I didn't get to do this beforehand. It was part of my plan. Currently, there are 11 2-0 players. 11 2-0 players in Shufflebus Season 5. Do you want to guess how many of those don't have Frostback Bear? Because that's the easier number here.
I don't know. I assume it's 0.
No, there's 1.
Oh, okay.
2. Sorry, there's 2.
Before you start ragging on Frostback Bear, listen to what I have to say about Frostback Bear and why it is important. Like, it has nothing to do with how powerful the Frostback Bear is. Like, it has everything to do with the fact that it has Terrifying. If there was not a unit that had Terrifying 1 that was a reliable unit out of a book in this game, we would go back to 2-hour games every time, and Auric would be the best, or some deck like that, some mill deck, something that doesn't care about the battlefield at all. Because you need that bypass. Like, after playing against Matt in round 2, and then playing against, and I can't remember who I was playing against. If you're in chat, please tell me. We talked about this just for a short time after our match, because I lost another game in a very similar fashion, where, like, I just couldn't block the Frostback Bear, and it got its damage through. But, like, if we take Terrifying off Frostback Bear, then all of a sudden, like, all you have to do is play Butterfly Monk, or, like, any 1/1, and you can block forever.
Yeah, no. I'm not.
And that just makes a terrible game.
I'm not arguing against the need for Terrifying to exist. I actually think Terrifying needs to exist. What I'm not sure Terrifying needs to exist on is a 2 dice 2/3.
It does. Like, though. It has to be a unit. Like, Frostback Bear is the perfect unit for it, because if it doesn't have 3 life, then it's not reliable. You're not going to get the Terrifying off because it'll die to a million things. The barrier between 2 and 3 life is so big. Like, we have
no, but you didn't let me finish. I'm saying, take a look at, like, Emperor Lion, or another good point is, like, Killer Cactus is saying Majestic Tyson. Take one of those units that costs you more and put Terrifying on it, and that unit becomes very, very good, right? We know it's very good. It's a big unit.
Titan already has, like, an unblockable thing.
It's got Gigantic, but Gigantic is infinitely worse because of the number of 2 life and higher units in the game. There are far
now after the
well, but it was also bad before. Like, I did, like, the math on this once. I don't have the numbers any longer, but, like, there was, like, a discrepancy of, like, 30 units that could block a Gigantic unit versus, like, 20 that could block a Terrifying 1 unit. Right? That's what made Terrifying 1 better, was that there was less things in the game that could actually block it. Whereas Gigantic, it might as well have had. I mean, it could have had anything else printed on it.
Did you count ones that are actually playable, or did you say, like?
I just looked at all. No, I just looked at all the
1/6 that gets bigger when it's damaged or whatever matters, because that card doesn't matter.
No, like, I literally looked at. I just looked in a vacuum and said, this unit coming into play, can it block a bear? Yes. No. That's what I did. And then I said, this unit coming into play, can it block a Gigantic? Yes. No. And I don't care what the unit is and whether it's playable or not, because that's all hotly debatable, right? I mean, we could go down a huge rabbit hole with that, but the point I'm
Frostback Bear right now.
Well, sure, but I mean, Frostback Bear is certainly dominating the meta. You have to understand that. Like, you
playing one. I don't first have it every time, but I'm playing one.
Sure, but
it has to exist, and it has to exist almost in its current state for a number of reasons. Like, and essentially, the reason is that you could just play 1/1s to block the entire game and win through decking or burn without it existing.
Sure.
And there would be no battlefield decks anymore. There would be no swing decks anymore. And it has to exist in its current state, because if it's not on a book, it's not reliable. So you can't beat the Miller burn decks. If it's not efficient, it's not reliable. So you can't beat the Miller burn decks. Like, you're talking about playing Majestic Titan, like these decks that want to play 1/1s or whatever, like, you're gonna play a 3 dice unit with a book tax and they're gonna laugh at you.
Well, that's why I'm not.
Or whatever.
I'm saying 3 dice. I think 3 dice is the magic number for Terrifying 1, and I don't,
because I think the difference between 2 and 3 dice is too much. Like, then, like, again, you're just sitting on this weird situation where your opponent just has to play a fester. They're up a dice on you, and your thing is no longer reliable. And
but that can't be entirely true, because knights were still played and are still played at 3 dice, and knights,
right, but the knights
have that same trade.
The knights, like, are not the answer to these clogged board states like Frostback Bear is. I'm talking about Frostback Bear having to exist because otherwise the nature of how the game plays would be very different. Like, if the decks don't have to respect Frostback Bear, they're not going to play knights anyway, because they're just going to chump. They're just going to chump block all day.
Sure.
And, like,
now let me okay, so pause for just a second. I know we have Terrifying on the Beast Warrior or whatever, the Beast Mage, the 2/2 that gets bigger or whatever. But
all the other ones it's on are bad.
Right, but if we got a 3/4, yeah, killer. But I think the reason why nobody plays Beast Mage is not because it's a 3-die Terrifying. I think the reason why nobody plays Beast Mage is because sometimes you're going to spend 3 dice on a 2/2, and that's bad. But other times you're going to spend 3 dice on a 4/4, and that's not so bad. The Shining Hydra, because Killer brings up Shining Hydra in chat, is not as effective.
Not only does it not get Terrifying right away, but it's also chained. So
right.
Like, so isn't a card that matters.
Right. I mean, so if Beast Mage was just, let's say Beast Mage was just a 3/4 Terrifying 1. Raise your hand in chat if you play that card.
You'd play it, but it would not solve the problem of board stalls.
Why?
Because it's not reliable. Because it doesn't get 2 to 4 damage through every round. It
so
gets
now
through once.
Okay.
Like,
hold on. So then, what if we had a book that was no book tax but made a 3/3 for Terrifying 1 for 3 dice? Would you play it?
I'd rather have Frostback Bear.
Well, I'm saying Frostback Bear doesn't exist.
Well, if Frostback Bear doesn't exist, then, like,
take Frostback.
Totally different. Like, who knows?
Well, but my point, this is my point, right? Frostback Bear is a card that's really above rate. It just is. Right? This 2/3 that can be used as a removal tool. Chad's saying he likely would. I'm saying that this is part of the issue we have now with Frostback Bear existing, is it doesn't give you a lot of design space in other colors to do anything. And I agree with your point. Like, if you try to design something that's on par or better than Frostback Bear, you are introducing power creep no matter what you do.
Right, because unless there's a rotation, you can't stop people from playing Frostback Bear.
Right.
Like,
Killer Cactus says, yes, I'd play that 3/3. See, this is my point.
But, like, so here's my question for chat then. All these people are saying, yes, I'd play that card. Is this a card that you would always first 5 and activate every turn? Or is this a card that you would just put in your deck for the matchups where you're worried about the jump blockers because you need the Terrifying?
That's a good question.
Because to me, that's what it would be. It would be like I don't want a 3 dice book I activate every time, but that card I would play because you'd need the Terrifying to beat the crappy decks.
Chad G adds it would depend on the matchup. I don't disagree, but I mean, we still see Bear played in every matchup and first 5 and many matchups, regardless of whether there's a clogged board state or not. Right? Because a 2/3 for 2 is good.
Right. And I mean, what I'm saying is that, like, the chump blocky decks in this game, especially now after the expansion, have this nice luxury of playing everything that's so efficient. Like,
sure.
Like my Auric deck, for instance, that I'll use just not because I think it's great, but because I know it very well, is all like.
Cam says he'd put it in to draw later.
Right, but then once you do that, once you put it into draw later, it's essentially just a knight. It's not a book, and then it's worse. Like, and Killer Cactus is right. Like, this is the thing, is what I was saying about these trump blocky decks. Using my deck as an example, is like I have like 2 cards in the deck that don't cost 1, because I guess 3, because Frostbite Bear doesn't cost 1. And so these trump blocky decks have this luxury to play all these cards that are super, super dice efficient. And if your plan is to sideboard a card that we have designed just now on purpose to not be dice efficient, that's not good. You're still weighing the game in benefit of the trump blocky decks that don't fight. Like, and I think, I mean, to me, that doesn't matter. Like, if you want to play a game competitively, you should just play the cards as they are,
Sure,
because you're not the designer. But if we're actually talking about the design of the game, I think that most people would agree that you want battlefield interaction, not chump blocks. Like, that's how most people like to play Ashes. And like, if Frostbite Bear doesn't exist, that just doesn't happen.
Sure. So let's Matt says, could you make a 2/3 overkill in another color? There are other abilities designed for pushing damage. Yeah, Matt, I think all of that is possible, right? All of that is possible. You could go overkill, you could go aftershock, you could go quick strike. I mean, there's a million different ways you could approach other 2/3 designs that are not terrifying.
Unless you rotate Frostback Bear, they're just going to play both of those books, and you've power creeped the game. Like, this is.
I mean, I don't know if that's true. We don't see. I mean, we have essentially. I mean, Sarasaurus is not a perfect match because of the ally expense associated to it, but we have a 3/3 over.
Think about it now.
Well, I think you better be careful, because there is a mount currently at mount deck at 2/0 right now in our tournament.
So when you look at the decks that are good with, like, what do you think the best deck with Bear is right now? I mean, everybody's playing Bear Mindfog, right? Like we just see many copies of that in our tournament, and we did last season too.
I don't think it matters.
They're playing like the next. They're playing the Bear book plus the next best 2 dice summon.
Sure.
So that already has space for that, and I don't know if it'll even be better than Mindfog, because the unblockable 2/2 is probably better than 2/3 overkill or whatever. But if it turns out 2/3 overkill is better in another color, then they'll just play Bear and 2/3 overkill. Like, the summons that they made in the expansions, I think, are designed beautifully, because Lizard is very good, but it's made in a way that you can't auto include it alongside Bear.
Sure.
And Cobra is probably pushed. Like, it's probably like a little too good, but it doesn't, like, you can play it with Bear and it's okay to do, but it doesn't like go crazy, right? Like, it's just fine. It just does what a Cobra does in every deck, essentially, which is like kind of show up your mill, like your mill side win.
Sure. Your pivot.
And soak up a removal spell.
Yeah, that's what it does. It soaks up removal spells, and it has a secondary win con of fatigue.
Just like I said when we were talking about the expansions originally, like, I think that what they've done is great. And from a design point of view, like, those are the kind of things we want to see, is new books, rather than trying to compete, like, come up with cool ways to function. That's not just like, oh, I can place alongside Bear and it's good, like. And
but I mean, don't you think that's just going to happen anyways? Like, if the next set's going to be Divine and Illusion, I think, right? Tristan and Diamona is what we know from Nick.
I think it's far less likely that we'll get anything new for Nature in the next set, since it won't be in the thing.
Right, but I'm saying, like in theory, most likely what's going to happen is, if there are good cards in Divine and Illusion that are printed in Divine Illusion time, we're just going to see those as supplemental cards to Frostback Bear books. Like, I mean, that's what we're going to get, right? We're still going to still have decks.
I think that you're jumping the gun by, like, talking about unprinted cards.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying,
likely Frostback Bear will still be good and still be in, like, a percentage of decks. Does that mean that it'll be in all the decks? We don't know. Like, what if they print a bunch more good mill stuff? The mill stuff already got showed up in this expansion.
Sorry, Killer. I thought it was Divine and Illusion. I'm sorry. So Divine and Sympathy is the next 2, and I'm just saying, like, when you look at the scope of things, like, if we were playing I don't know.
Okay,
Like,
so let me ask you this.
I'm going to
Let me
attribute
ask you a
this
question
similar to
kind
like
of a different way.
Oko. So I mean, I know Oko was really broken in Magic, but like Oko dominated the meta, was in 60% of decks, or 70% of decks, or 80% of decks. I don't remember what the number was. There, I remember reading it
But
at
you're
one
talking
point.
about the worst standard format in the last 25 years.
It doesn't, you don't preface it. You just say this is a meta, right? That's a meta. This is a meta that exists. Right now, we have a meta that exists that's
So
dominated by Prospector.
I want to clarify, though, because now
Sure.
you're trying to compare Ashes to the worst standard format in the last 25 years, one that made like some pros quit until the following season.
Okay.
Like, that's how you feel about this right now?
No, I don't know. I mean, I certainly look at a lot of people. I wonder if there are people that are looking at our deck lists and looking at.
That's what I was about to say. So I'm going to ask you this question a different way, and I want chat to answer too.
Sure.
Like, of the cards in Ashes that everyone bitches about, like, besides Frostback Bear, they're not even nature cards. People complain about playing against Neil. People think that cards like Blood Puppet are annoying. Like, cards that like play on this weird axis. People don't like getting milled or their dice change.
Sure.
Those are like the common bugaboos that people dislike, at least that I've heard. Right? Like,
sure,
things that like make it harder for you to play your cards. And none of those things exist in nature. Nature is a straightforward, like, big dudes and burn spells. And that's what most people like. Right? Like, in general, people that like play casual Ashes or just casual card games in general, they like those things, and they don't like counter spells. They don't like wraths, the things that exist in the weaker colors in this game. So is it really bad that nature is the best color? Like, is this like a feeling that everybody has that like, oh, we shouldn't play nature because it's the best? Because
no,
I know that's a fallacy a lot of people run into too, is like, this is the best, so I should try not to play it because it proves that if I win not doing it, I'm better than everyone. Like,
well, I mean,
these things, like,
specifically Matt talked about that, right? In the main action podcast, like, they just recently talked about, like, he brought the Cold deck just to prove that Illusion could win a tournament, right? Like, that's the whole reason he did it. And a guy like Matt is certainly capable of doing that, but I don't think that that is a representation of the larger field of Ashes competitors.
What I'm asking is like people don't like those kind of cards. Like, people don't like Vanish, right? People like right. See, Killer says the same thing. He hates mill, and nature doesn't do that, so he likes nature because of that.
But he also adds nature seems overpowered. He does add that. You specifically left that part of his comment.
Did you read the last sentence?
Yeah.
So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, so this is the thing, is you can't have everything. As soon as you start balancing every color, this game is just chess, and the colors lose identity. And we have decks, and even if they all have Prospect Bear, even if we go into Season 6 and literally every deck has at least one Prospect Bear, if the decks function differently, it's still a diverse meta. Like, it.
Let me ask a question. If a book made a 2/1 with Terrifying 1 in ceremonial, let's just say
good. It has to have 3 toughness.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It does, because as soon as it's 2 or less, it's not reliable. Like, the control decks will beat it.
Well, the control decks beat Bear too, though, right? Like, we know that control decks can beat Bear. Mill decks can't beat Bear, right? We know a mill deck.
My deck is a control deck, and I lose to Bear consistently, right? Like, and it's because it has 3 life. It's very difficult to kill. Like, if it had 2 life or 1 life, it would be killed easily by everything, and then the Terrifying wouldn't matter. Like, it has to be like. It has a book text on purpose because it would be too good to have multiple copies of the book in your deck at just 2 dice for a 2/3. But
Chaz, see you. Be back in an hour. Sounds good, Chad. We're gonna get started with a match here in about 20 minutes, so we'll see you soon.
Yeah, and this is kind of an epiphany I had like literally this week, and I did want to talk about it. It's interesting that you like brought up this like counter argument to it, I guess, that just on a whim kind of, that like, I think Prospect Bear has to exist, and I think it has to exist in its current state or very close to it. And if not, then we're going to go back to 2-hour games, and lots of games will end in fatigue or like go to time.
I mean, it's very possible that's true. I don't know.
And its 3 life is very important to that. Say, it's not just that it has Terrifying. It also has to be efficient, 2 dice, and have 3 life so it doesn't die to everything.
Well, okay, so, but when you talk about die to everything, the things that it dies to are nature, right? Like, if nature is not as prominent and less nature dice are ran, then 1 life units become better. Right? They do. Like, we can admit that, right? If 60% of the dice spread is not nature.
I mean, yes, you're right. If we changed it so that, like, the other nature cards were also bad, then nature would stop being played.
Not the other nature cards. I'm talking about nature dice power in itself is an enabler of this, because nature's dice power is very good, and Frostback Bear also being in nature is very good. Killer Cactus brings up an interesting point. What if Bear was in? He says an illusion card, but what if Bear was just in any other color?
The color doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, this is ultimately what I'm saying. Like, Bear combined with nature power makes for some of the most powerful effects you can do in Ashes, because they play directly to the board. Like, Illusion's dice power doesn't play to the board, right? Divine's dice power kind of plays to the board ish. It's okay.
The only issue that I have with changing its color, like if it was any other color, it doesn't matter which one. Power side book tax plus basic class, make a 2/3 terrifying one. Like, that's fine. But again, now you're screwing with the identity of colors.
But are you? I mean, it could fit into a divine. It could be a divine card, or that could be a ceremonial card. A terrifying ceremonial card makes total sense to me.
I mean, I guess, like, it.
Well, I mean, we've got,
even imagining it not as a bear, like it's a skeleton or an angel or whatever it is.
Right.
Like,
I mean, take your pick. It doesn't. I mean,
still,
thematically,
like, a 2/3, belongs in nature or charm, right? Like, those are, like,
sure,
the colors that would have a unit statted that way. And
I'm just throwing this discussion out there, because one of the things that I think could be a potential progress point for Ashes is the ability to kind of like we see games do this a lot. They look at results of tournaments, and I mean, I'm not trying to toot our own horn here, but I think we are representing a very, very large, I mean, as large of a set of organized tournament play that you can find in Ashes right now, right? I mean, Shufflebus has done this consistently. That's what we're trying to do, right? And so our results are telling a story. Whether or not there's enough data, but they are telling a story.
I don't think this story, I think this story has a happy ending. Like, it's just fine the way it is. And to your point about changing its color, like, essentially by changing it to illusion or divine or whatever, you actually shrink the amount of playable decks more than if it's in nature, because people are still going to play the nature cards if the nature cards aren't changed, because they're still very good besides bear. So you're just going to be forced into nature plus whatever color the bear is.
But let me okay, so I just wonder if there's a culmination of this, and so that's why I'm asking these questions. I'm not diametrically opposed to it. I'm just sitting here talking about it because it's an interesting sort of what if scenario, right? Like, and I mean, we don't have to live in a world where Frostback Bear is the best conjuration and nature's the best color. That's just where we are right now.
We have to live in the reality of what the game is, like.
Right, but Cactus makes a good point. But my Cactus says Bear forces you to run at least 2 nature dice. Once you have more than one of a die type, you start wanting to add more. Sure, I agree with that, Cactus. Now my point
Cactus,
is,
like, if Bear was an illusion card and none of the other cards in the pool were changed, you're still very incentivized to play nature. So then you're forced into 2 illusion dice plus some nature dice instead of just being forced into nature.
Right,
dice.
but that turns it into like 2 illusion dice and maybe 3 or 4 nature dice, not 6. So now you have less nature pings available in the game. Again, it gives breadth to the card pool.
Well, I mean, 4 nature dice plus 2 illusion dice for Bear is 4 possible nature pings, which 4 nature dice plus 2 illusion, like 6 nature dice plus Bear is still 4 possible. That math doesn't make any sense, because you're
but you have other, I mean, to Cactus's point, you have other nature cards. So what I'm saying is like right now it's super easy to go Frostback Bear Molten Gold, because you're already 2 in. You might as well add 2 more and add the Molten Gold package, and there's no reason to not. But like, we know like the double power side of Molten Gold is probably something where you got to be at least 3 dice or 4 dice into the color alone. And so when you go Frostback Bear with those things, you're basically kind of conceding I have to run at least 3 dice if I want to be able to play a bear and make a Molten Gold in a round, and I'm most likely going to run 4 and probably going to push 5, right? So when you start talking about it from that perspective, if bear was another color, you can't do that. You can probably push 3 dice in nature still, but that means that you no longer have a round where you have access to 5 pings, where you can make a bear and 4 pings instead of, whatever.
I mean, when was the last time anybody made a bear and 5 pings?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know, man.
You do like what, 2 nature pings max in a round?
Maybe. I mean, it just depends on the where you're at, right, and what you're doing. I'm just saying that I think part of what's feeding the 60% nature die. I
just don't see why that's a problem. Does anybody think that's a problem? Like, chat,
I don't know.
Please,
I'm just asking.
Like,
I'm not specifically saying it's a problem. I just think it's an interesting state. It's an interesting state of where the game is. And I don't know how, as a designer, and again, it's not my job to design, it's just my job to play, but as a designer, I don't know how you would make future sets that are interesting enough to possibly get people to not play nature dice.
I mean, we dramatically changed the playability of Charm, right? With this Auric set. Like,
sure.
There's many more Charm cards and many better Charm cards. And like, what's wrong with that? Like, you think that's not going to happen with the Sympathy set or the Illusion set?
I think that it's going to be hard pressed because it's really hard to get out of that nature. It's really hard. Like, I have tried playing a number of decks that don't have nature in it, and every time I play, like, I'm just saying, I have tried to specifically.
What is your goal when you're building those decks, though? Like, if your goal is to win competitively, like if you're just talking about tournament grinding,
mm-hmm.
you should just forget about all design things and focus on what cards exist and how to win. If you're focused on having fun, like, and you decide like nature isn't fun for me anymore, then don't play nature. Like,
well, no, this is no. Hear me out. Yes, when I'm out testing, looking for the next tournament deck that I'm going to run, there's a testing process involved in that, right? If all my decks start off as Frostback Bear, Molten Gold, Nature's Wrath as my core shell, and then I'm going to sprinkle in a Lightbringer or a Salamander Monk or whatever as my support colors, then why bother testing a new deck? You might as well just stay in whatever deck you've got built that's competitive.
You named less than 30% of your deck. I guess less than 33% of your deck. So,
but I mean, there's fundamentally though that core is not different, right? And Inquisitor brought it up earlier when he said, I'm hoping to find some side upgrades because, I'm tired of playing the bear and the owl. I think that's a reasonable point. It's a really reasonable point.
All you're saying is that like I don't like the current competitive meta, so I would rather play casually or like I.
Why can't the competitive meta evolve though to get away from this? Like why can't
we're not in charge of making the cards?
Sure. I know, but we can influence that, right? We have influence in that. I think we have influence in that as one of the largest competitive scenes in Ashes. Like certainly our results should influence that in some degree.
If that's your goal, then you should focus not on what currently exists and what could exist. Like you should focus on what could exist because
that's what I've been talking about, right? Like through this whole conversation.
Well, you're just saying nature is too good. Like nature exists as it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change.
But that's not where I started this conversation.
Even if you were a designer, you literally said that 60%. Your first statement was 60% of decks are.
And my first question is how could the game evolve to get away from the Frostback Bear nature meta? And you said it can't. That's how we got here. That's how we spent 45 minutes talking about this.
I mean,
and it shouldn't. You told me it can't, and it shouldn't.
Right. Under the assumption that we're talking about cards that exist, like.
Yeah, I'm talking about the being able to look now. I mean, because let's be honest, up to probably at least these next 2 Phoenixborns, I'm not sure there was much tournament data for Nick to really work off of for understanding. I think there was a little bit because Shufflebus season 1, I think, was going on when they were doing Orc and
count Shufflebus season 1 when they're doing testing. Like
sure.
we were an unknown entity. That was the Wild West of decks. Like, and their playtesting group, especially at that time, is much more experienced than us and the people that played in our tournament.
Sure.
With the exception of themselves, most of which were in the tournament.
Sure.
And like, obviously now going forward, if they were working on expansions past Diamona and whatever the other guy is, like maybe they would take some of this into account because they can use play data. But the fact of the matter is that Nature's Wrath exists.
Sure.
And Frostback Bear exists, and Molten Gold exists, and like these cards are not going to be errated or reprinted. Like they shouldn't be chained. They're not like. I mean, good, but they're not causing the game to function erratically like the other cards that were chained.
I mean, as a developer, you can look at so I'm gonna use Flesh and Blood as an example here, just for the purposes of this argument, because I think there's some validity to how Legend Story Studios handles their competitive meta. When Monarch came out and it was classic constructed season, and Chain was just dominating local armories. He was dominating the callings, right? Like had a 1,000-person tournament. Chain was 60% of the field. That's roughly the same kind of thing as what we're seeing with Frostback Bear as an identity, right? Did they ban Chain? No. They didn't ban the entire class, right? But they made changes. They banned cards that allow, and it opened up the meta. The last 2 callings...
Right. How many cards are in a set of FAB?
It depends on the set. Like, Monarch was 207. But you got to remember, like, that's a falsity. You don't really get 207 cards to build with. Like, if you pick...
And in Ashes, we don't get a full, 10 cards in a set either. Like, literally there was a thing in Discord today or yesterday about, what cards do you hate and never play?
Sure.
I think it's probably a reasonably similar percentage of the field that is, competitively unplayable.
Well, it's not even that. It's... Chain is a Shadow Runeblade, which means that you can only play Shadow cards and you can only play Runeblade cards in it. And so the amount of cards, the actual unique number of cards that can be played outside of the generals, which can be played in any class, so I don't include those in competitives, right? I'm just talking about the unique identifier cards for that class, is probably right around 40, maybe, maximum. Right? So if you're building a 60, and remember, a lot of these are 3, they're red, yellow, blue, right? So really that number shrinks down to I don't know. It's probably somewhere closer to 30 uniques with red, yellow, blue. So 90 cards total.
The same size as 3 complete sets of Ashes, assuming that they're and only half of each of the ones in those sets are going to be of the color you want because they're all cross-colored, unless they're adding a new dice, which I don't think they have any plan to do. So we're talking about 6 sets of cards, assuming that every card in those 6 sets is playable, is the same as one FAB set.
But not every card is playable either. So I mean, whatever. My point being is that competitively, Chain was just the absolute beast of the format, right?
Sure.
And they looked at what was making him a beast, and they removed the things that made him a beast, like a beast. And was he still playable and competitive? Absolutely, still play. I mean, he's still top 8.
So what I'm saying, how many cards did they remove?
One of all 3 colors.
They banned 1 card out of 40.
Right.
Are there even 40 nature cards that exist?
I don't know. It's a good question.
So, assuming that there are, and we ban one of them, we ban Frostback Bear.
Yeah, sure.
Unlike FAB, where you're only hurting the one deck, you're now hurting a very wide swath of decks with this banning. And it's probably worse than that because I bet that banning a nature card is a bigger percentage of the pool than 40.
There are 25 nature cards.
Yeah, so it's almost twice as impactful.
That are just nature. No other support color.
Okay.
Just raw nature cards.
I mean, if the community really feels that nature's too good, then the community should go talk to Nick about it. Say something to Plaid Hat. But I think we have as diverse a meta now as we have had.
Mhm.
And just because they have Frostback Bears in them doesn't mean that that's bad. Like,
yeah, that was not the point of my argument at all.
well, then I don't understand what you want. Then that's what I don't.
The point of my argument was, how do you move forward? Again, that's what we started this conversation with: is how do you move forward and make other colors relevant in the meta to the point that 60% of the field isn't fielding a predominantly nature deck. And
I mean,
you can't, right? Like, you can't.
I mean, you definitely can just print cards that aren't nature cards, which they're going to do, right? Like,
right, but if they're not competitive,
adding cards to other colors is going to improve other colors and not improve nature.
Sure, but if they're not competitive cards, I mean,
we don't know that they won't be.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, like, if it's not on par with, like, if you can't replace Frostback Bear in your 4-book Aerodel with another color, then you're going to still be in nature.
So what?
Well,
like,
but that doesn't reduce the number of dice that are spent or in the spread.
How do you know that? Like, what if this illusion set comes out, and this illusion time set adds a bunch of good time cards and a bunch of good illusion cards, and so we're playing Frostback Bear in my 4-book Aerodel, but we're down to 2 nature dice to play Frostback Bear, and then we have 4 illusion dice and something else. Like,
you really think 10 cards are going to have that much impact on the game?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But no, they can't print more than 10 cards at a time.
Sure.
Like, they printed 5 or 6 charm cards, right?
Well, they printed 10. I mean, they're either time and charm, or they're charm, right?
There's no just time cards.
No.
In either set.
I don't think so.
That's not true. Omen Bringer's a just time card.
No, it's not. Oh wait, you're right. It is. I thought it had a charm cost to play it on the front end, but you're right.
Backtrack is just a time card.
Yep. So there's 9 charm cards in, because I think that's the only one. So
they added 9 charm cards, and we've seen a lot more charm played this season than we did in previous seasons. Before, the charm we saw was for Gilded Book and Three-Eyed Owl.
Yeah, I'm just looking really quick here.
Happen to Illusion? You don't think that's going to happen to Sympathy? Like, I mean, you have to remember that we actually had a nature set printed. So, also going into this meta, we actually added more nature cards. Some of them are good. So
Cam adds Nature Reborn is the 1.0 illusion. Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. But I think that Plaid Hat has an opportunity. I mean, Nick has an opportunity to look at results from tournaments and look at what people are registering in tournaments and make a decision about, is this the way they want Ashes to be played? I can't make that decision. We can certainly influence that. As a community, we can influence that. Right? And I think Plaid Hat listens. I do think they listen. So if we want to see a more diversified color pool, that's the word I'm going to use for this, color pool, then there's got to be an opportunity to find a way to compete with Frostback Bear in design. So I'm going to take 20 seconds because we're going to get ready to get started here, and I need to set up some stuff. So if you want to talk with chat more about this, you certainly can. I'm going to start getting the game set up and the overlay set up because I have not done that. I thought I'd do it while we were chatting here, but we ended up in a much deeper conversation. So, and I appreciate the conversation.
Killer, I think Killer has it right, and he said it before too. That he said, I was talking about the other day, nature seems OP. Like, I don't know if overpowered, but it's definitely very strong. But he goes on to say he hates the thing nature doesn't do, so he's all for it, right? And I think that the general consensus of the community, and anybody can chime in here and tell me if I'm wrong, is that the things that Illusion does, the things that Sympathy does, are the things that people don't like, and nature doesn't cross over into those. Like, if you want the game to continue to be combat among units on the battlefield, like, Frostback Bear has to exist, and it being in nature, I think, is just fine. I mean, Cam Cactus, I never really played competitive 1.0. I know that Doktarr, you're gonna have to wait just a moment. Jesse stepped away. I'm getting into Ash Techie right now. Um, I don't see the problem with it being very nature heavy because I don't think that all the decks are the same that are playing nature. Like sure they have a Frostback Bear, but like let's say that instead it was divine we're 60% divine. We'd still just be like a million of the same book. I don't know what it would be like Lioness or whatever. Like books specifically, obviously you're gonna see a lot of, and it's going to have a big impact on the game because any book that you start and play with, you're going to activate multiple times throughout the game. So it's going to by far be the most common unit that's in play under your control, regardless of what that is. Right, Kelly. That's, I mean, obviously, like the old Illusion, it was just a different game then, right? Like the game wasn't about battlefield resources; it was about dice resources. It wasn't even really about card resources, the way that I understand it. And you could never splash colors because it was easy to strand your opponent with cards in hand because if you had like one ceremonial or whatever and they wolfed you, then you're SOL. Like obviously we talk about a lot how trading one dice for one is very, very good. And just like the wolf dice did that exactly. So but it looks like we're ready to go. So
we are. Yep. We are ready to go. I've got the overlay updated. Sorry, just needed to focus in on that to be able to get that done quickly and efficiently. So, but yeah, I mean, look, I enjoyed this conversation, and I think I don't think it's a situation where we have to like say the house is burning down. That's not. I wasn't trying to be an alarmist about it. I just wanted us to consider a conversation about what that would look like. So let's get started with this round 3 matchup between Inquisitor and Doktarr. Doktarr is the Herald player on the top of your screen, and Inquisitor is playing Leo on the bottom. Looks like first 5 have been picked.
I'm so excited to see this Canyon Shelter deck. I think it's probably like a rough matchup because it doesn't look like the Herald has much to do against the mill deck. But I hope he does something cool with Canyon Shelter because that card is cool.
All right, good luck, Doktarr. Thanks for staying. Appreciate it, man.
I've been playing some random Canyon Shelter decks on Ashteki for fun lately, and I don't know that it's actually good enough, but it's definitely better than I gave it credit for before.
Summon Salamander
I tried it at the
Monk.
beginning, but
so Doktarr gets us started with a Salamander Monk right away. Meditates call upon the realms, bring a time die up. So yeah, Doktarr got to go first here, rolling the 4 basics. He chose to go first.
So I don't even know if Canyon Shelter is like his plan A, if he even starts one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's hard to say.
It might just be like specific matchup based, but
what's interesting here is, I mean, Doktarr has the opportunity right now to go ahead and make this Salamander Monk, and if your opponent makes a 3-eyed owl, you can use the Hunter's Mark early to just hunt away that 3-eyed owl.
Yeah, I mean that puts you a little ways behind on resources. I think I'm trying to figure out what he would have started because we know what this Leo deck does. We've seen it a couple times, right? His first 5 has traditionally been
Cobra
Owl, Cobra, Siphon,
Essence Druid, and Siphon.
Essence Druid and something.
Yeah.
And I believe that you can potentially go double knight that way, right? Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it could be Vampire plus. I know he has also tended to start a Violinist sometimes.
So Harold goes ahead and makes the Frostback Bear. Doesn't value dealing with that owl. It's possible that he's just going to let the owl eat a card from hand. That does.
He has a couple horses, so like you can let it eat a horse dice instead.
Sure.
But but like I said, I don't know what he started, so he hasn't
Yeah.
shown the Canyon Shelter yet. So there's the owl.
Yep. So Inquisitor makes Three-Eyed Owl, and we see a Swift Messenger as a rapid response. This is a nice answer.
This also does it with the this actually deals with the owl twice because you well, I guess since it doesn't it just replaces itself, it doesn't deal with it twice, it just deals with it once if you Hunter's Mark it.
Mm-hmm.
But putting the 1/1 body in, though with the Glowfinch, this does mean that he does have to Hunter's Mark it.
Right, and he does right away. Just going to go ahead and
before he could attack it and like frog it or something if he wanted to do that.
Right.
But
yeah, he's just going to Hunter's Mark Swift Messenger.
Did he start
he's just,
Consume? It'd be
that'd be
dope if he started Consume.
Really interesting if he did take a Consume play here in the open. Does
nope,
eat that like owl. It doesn't look like we're going to get a Consume play though. Maybe he was hoping to draw the Consume of the Swift Messenger.
I mean, it's not crazy to start Consume Spirit in a matchup like this because the Hunter's Mark is so good against the Glowfinch also. Like, sure. Obviously, like you don't want to Hunter's Mark the Glowfinch itself, but it lets you bypass the unit card to get at his like Cobra or Bear or whatever.
So here comes the Cobra.
Cobra or Owl.
Yeah, I think you're in a Frostback Bear race against this deck ultimately, as long as you can deal with the Essence Druid and the other knights.
And having used the Hunter's Mark, the Essence Druid is much more difficult to deal with.
Matt asks, could Finch a block there? No, Matt, because Hunter's Mark from Herald says the unit can't be guarded or blocked for. So it gives any unit you want stock from Herald. So when Herald
Hunter's Mark is really good.
When he uses Mark Prey and puts a Hunter's Mark alteration on, you can't guard the unit any longer in any capacity, whether that's PB guard or unit guard. Good question. There's probably lots of new players that
was what I was saying about the. If he hadn't made Finch, then he could have attacked and frogged. I guess the Leo could have guarded too, though. So
yeah,
wouldn't have been able to do that. But I think without the Hunter's Mark, his this Essence Druid is going to be difficult to kill. Though looking at his list, the Essence Druid is just very difficult to kill for him anyway, because he doesn't actually have a 3-power unit in his deck.
Yeah, and that's a real problem when you're talking about Essence Druid.
He has a Hunt Master, so you can like make one, but
yeah, you can Hunt Master a Bear, you can Hunt Master
because he has like, man, he really doesn't have a lot to deal with that Essence Druid. He has a close combat that's like pretty awkward. You have to like mark it and then close combat it.
Yeah, I mean, but those plays aren't completely unreasonable to make when you're playing Herald, for sure.
Well, the thing about it is that he only has one close combat, so he probably would have had to first 5 it, and then he's not going to play it this round because he has to have the Hunter's Mark too. I guess
he's
like
showing,
if he can figure out a massive growth, he could kill it that way. But
he's definitely showing right now, that he could play massive growth and could play close combat. I mean, that's one way. I guess massive growth is chained, so you can't. Massive growth here in round 1, you're gonna have to let that go through to round 2. So
I'm worried about his ability to beat Essence Druid.
I mean, Essence Druid is a real pain for standard swing type decks for sure.
It's a very good card.
One thing you can do in that scenario, if you are playing the Canyon Shelter, which obviously he didn't start the Canyon Shelter here because if you did, he's not planning to use it.
Well, you can't use it in round 1 unless you have an untap.
Sure.
Because you can use it to shelter the unit, you can't use it to put it back in.
But he doesn't have any time dice currently to put the shelter down, so
it costs a nature to play.
Oh, it does?
It's a nature dice to book tax, and then it's a time dice to put a guy back.
This shows you how much I've played Canyon Shelter. Exactly 0 times, chat.
Yeah, he could still play the Canyon Shelter. I don't think it does very much here, but I'll be interested to see.
It could suck a bear back in, for next round.
It does kind of heal the conjurations that don't have recover.
Right.
But the difference between like the 1 dice bear and the 2 dice bear, like if you just leave the bear in play, it's cheaper. The only time the Canyon Shelter is better is if you're protecting the bear. So if Inquisitor did start on Master Vampire, he could like attack with bear here. See the Master Vampire the next turn, like slam Canyon Shelter and suck it up.
Right.
And then the Master Vampire wouldn't have a bear to eat.
Right, and that's what I was going to see here. He's going to try to attack the Ruby Cobra. I'm sure this will get a Leo block. I
I
doubt.
think this is Ruby Cobra. Oh, he was attacking. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, Leo guard. Obviously, the Glowfinch can't guard the bear.
Right, because of the terrifying on the bear.
So now we'll see if he does Canyon Shelter it next
Yeah,
turn.
it'd be interesting to see if that's part of his plan here. He's still holding the dice to be able to play his own Huntmaster here in round one.
Right,
He has
Huntmaster's cooler to Canyon Shelter than bear, but
the nice part about Huntmaster here is that it actually is set up because of the Leo guard early here to this bear. It is set up to literally hunt this Cobra and the Glowfinch out of the game state.
Right, the Glowfinch can still guard, but
yeah. And the Druid does not have unit guard, so if you just start attacking units directly, you can sort of just ignore the Druid for a while here. We do see Summon Mindfog Owl come down from the Leo player. I think that's kind of a flex for him sometimes. He doesn't always play that Mindfog Owl.
I don't remember if he started that in the last time I watched or not. That puts him on...
I think it puts him on an Essence Druid, second Cobra.
And
plus Mindfog Owl. Yeah, he does like to start Violinist a lot. Although, and Violinist
he'll have a dice left over if he goes 3 dice for Essence Druid, 1 dice for whatever book he recurs with it is 4, 2 dice for Owl, and then Violinist.
So this Panther Spirit is probably going to eat the Glowfinch, most likely.
Well, it might get Violinist here.
Yeah, I mean, but I would think you'd rather Violinist the Messenger if you're going to do anything.
It's a toss-up, right? Like, the Panther Spirit represents like a dead Cobra now.
Well, it doesn't though, because he has a Glowfinch. Yeah, it doesn't. The Panther Spirit at best is going to deal 1 damage to the Glowfinch. Like, you're not going to probably spend the Spirit Guide into this Panther.
What is his last book? So he's got 2 dice left. I'm trying to figure out what Harold's going to do, because he's going to summon a monk, and that leaves him with Sympathy and Nature.
He's going to summon an Essence Druid.
Well, that's
oh, you're talking about the Herald. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what the last 3 dice on Harold's side are.
Well, 1 card is probably a non-play, right?
I bet he's going to go wide. I bet that he's going to make a Salamander, and he's going to make a Raptor Herder,
and then make a Canyon Shelter.
He's going to play a card.
I bet he shelters the Huntmaster.
Yeah, I guess it could be Salamander, Raptor, Canyon Shelter. But you want to attack. If that's the case, he wants to attack with Huntmaster now.
Yeah, I think that he's put in an awkward spot. But what you would probably do is just go ahead and it's Inquisitor's turn right now, so we're going to wait for Inquisitor to make a move. Yeah. But my guess is you would go Spirit Guide and just attack Leo's face and let your opponent decide how to block or take the 4, and then you would drop Canyon Shelter next turn to suck it back in. But we'll have to wait and see.
I wouldn't attack with... Man, this is rough, because if you attack with Huntmaster here, setting up the Canyon Shelter, then your Panther is just a 1/1, because you won't have it to attack with.
You can you can Spirit Guide. Just go Spirit Guide into face for 4, and then force the block.
Oh, I mean, well, now you're definitely attacking Owl. Like,
sure, but it's still going to get Glowfinch. So my point is like, at this point you can attack for 4 and let your opponent decide. They'll block, so he does go with the Raptor. So he's not going to waste any time here. He's just going to go super wide here.
Now he'll go face probably, but like,
yeah,
I think that you should have Panther attacked Owl.
But you wouldn't get in
off the guide. Well, yeah, but you have to deal with the Glowfinch somehow, right?
Sure.
Like, it's not like you get just by like not attack. I guess you could not attack and then Glowfinch would just stay in play and nothing would happen. But like,
so he did not start the Raptor. He's saying he can't complain about that draw.
Right, because he drew a card off.
So what would have been his 5th? Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough here. But we're going to see Violinist hit this Hatchling, I'm sure. Oh, he takes the Herder. That's interesting. Why did he leave the Hatchling? Oh, I guess. I mean,
because his blocks are still good. Like,
oh yeah, they're all great. I mean, you can just let all these units get sucked up by this, right? So,
well, you probably take. I mean, you can't kill the Huntmaster on the block. And you want to attack with Cobra. So you just like block the. Okay, so he guides the Panther and he's going to swing with 3, I assume.
Yeah.
Or he's just going to attack Mind Fog.
Yeah, he can't just attack Mind Fog because he's got the Salamander Monk still on the back end, but what you get to risk is you got to know that this Essence Druid is coming if you're Doktarr. And if he knows it's coming, and so he goes after the Cobra here.
And he decided Cobra
over the Mind Fog.
I guess he's worried about the milling race more than the damage race.
Yeah.
That would be the only reason I think you do that. But and that might be actually true that he's closer to getting milled than
well, if you're gonna frog ping the Finch Cam, he should have done it before making the attack, but then you can't spare the guy.
I think he has a Canyon Shelter in hand.
Yeah, I do too.
So he doesn't want to use the frog because he wants to play the Canyon Shelter.
Yeah, so I think you're gonna see Salamander Monk make a Salamander Monk into a 2 attack. You can.
Right. I mean,
you can do a variety of things here and let the Raptor Hatchling just be a blocker.
Right. I think that he's going to attack Mind Fog with Huntmaster because currently the Huntmaster can't die before. Well, let's see. So if he plays Essence Druid now, we have an attack on Mind Fog. He'll attack back. Yeah. So because he has Herald Guard up, he can attack Mind Fog, let the Huntmaster take 2, and then next turn, like when the Huntmaster gets attacked, Herald block. And then on his following turn, he can play Canyon Shelter and suck up the Huntmaster.
Right.
Essentially like negating all attack.
Yeah.
So here we're seeing reptile battles.
Dinosaur battles.
It's weird that like the snake, like this raptor just has nothing to do with this snake.
Yeah. It's like
this baby raptor just got bit by a snake. He's going to die. Like,
yep. Well, Cobra's a poisonous man.
Snake. Oh, okay. So we had a Herald Guard. That's interesting. That makes the
mine is not refreshing apparently. Okay, so he did. Okay, there we go.
So that makes me believe that he's going to try to go face once the Salamander's in play.
Yeah, I think you have to now, right?
But if he goes Salamander, Inquisitor's just going to go Essence Druid, and then his attack to face looks really awkward. Right? Like
it does, without a doubt. And the other big issue you now have is you don't have the timing.
I guess because he guarded with Herald, he can't protect the Huntmaster from the Essence Druid attack if his plan was Canyon Shelter.
So the only thing that he's got going is if he's banking on the Essence Druid play here, that actually allows him to Spirit Guide the Salamander into the Mind Fog Owl.
Yeah, that's good.
And you still have Raptor Hatchling to guard, against the Essence Druid or the other Ruby Cobra, right? So you don't take damage. He does hit off.
I mean, he can even take a Herald attack. Like that's
double Huntmaster off of the Glowfinch and a Consume Soul off of the Cobra attack is pretty rough here.
I don't think he wants more than one Huntmaster usually, but maybe.
I mean, I don't think there's a world where Herald doesn't, right? Like, if you have one in Canyon that you only have to spend 1 die to bring out, you certainly can cast another Huntmaster.
Yeah, I guess because his deck doesn't have like a bunch of other threats you do. And it does suck that like all of his 3-cost things are dead for Scald if he draws the Scald.
Yeah.
Yep, there's the Druid. He's gonna get another Cobra.
Yep.
And we've seen this from Inquisitor, the double Cobra over double Owl a bunch of times. And I mean, I think it's correct. Like, there is a card left in Herald's hand, obviously, so he might get a value with the Owl, but.
So the real trick here is.
So this is that attack you were talking about.
Salamander into the Mind Fog. I don't think you'll see Inquisitor counter this. I think he'll just let the Mind Fog Owl die here.
I countered anyway.
Yeah, he did. That's interesting.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably fine.
It's not 100% wrong to counter it. Obviously, like, you're going to have to deal with the Spirit eventually.
Right.
It does look a little awkward right now, though. I mean, because the Herald Guard is down, he's gonna get to eat either of the 1/1s if he
Well,
wants.
so most likely, yeah. I mean,
I mean,
so
I guess that's not good to do either.
so what you really got here now is like, yeah, Inquisitor's going to go ahead and play a Ruby Cobra book, but you now get a group tactics attack here for 5. Essence Druid is going to have to block probably the Hunt Master, and then you're going to get and you're going to get in for another 3 and put Leo at 5 damage.
Well, I mean, he'll definitely attack a unit with this Cobra. He won't attack face.
Sure. I'm just talking about like actual plays from Doktarr right now from the Herald player. Like the Herald
player's
players.
Last card's Raptor Herder. He said he drew enough Swifty, so he actually could have a Raptor Herder in hand.
Could.
That'd be kind of sweet.
Good.
After he makes this group tactics attack here, and he makes a slot, then he'll be able to play Raptor Herder.
Well, he won't make a slot because I'm sure he's going to block the Hunt Master and try to get 1 damage on that Hunt Master so the Cobra can eat up the Hunt Master. So he's just going to kill the Violinist. He's going to take a much... Yeah, I do too. What I like about this is if Inquisitor makes a Ruby Cobra here...
Right, that was actually much better because now that Cobra is essentially useless.
Yeah, if he makes that Cobra, it's just going to die to the Hunt Master attack. And if he doesn't make a Cobra, he can just kill the other Cobra. You know, and face another mill, but...
So what could his last card be?
I still think it's Canyon Shelter. He just can't use it yet because the Hunt Master isn't exhausted.
Right.
So I think you're going to see Hunt Master attack Cobra here. And then you're going to see Essence Druid attack Hunt Master. And then you're going to see a Canyon Shelter suck the Hunt Master back up.
I'm not even sure it's right to bring your Hunt Master back now.
Oh, like, yeah, because you get your... 2? Yeah, but you get all your Spirit Guide tokens back.
I guess. I mean...
That's actively the only way you're going to kill this Essence Druid, right?
I mean, you're even with the Spirit Guide tokens, you're not going to kill Essence Druid. Like, it has to be some weird close combat thing. Because Spirit Guiding a 2/3 and attacking it, like, and putting 1 damage on the Essence Druid, you have to do that 4 times. That's your plan.
No, because if you have a Hunter's Mark on it, it's double. You have to do it twice. So you put Hunter's Mark on, and then you go side action, Spirit Guide, Frostback Bear, attack into Essence Druid, deal 2, and then make second Druid Bear and do it exactly again, and you win. I mean, it takes a lot of that's a lot of dice, but
that sounds bad. I don't know. I mean, maybe the extra Panther and the guide tokens are good essence What happened here? Oh,
he attacked the
Druid ate the 1/1. Okay.
Yep. So that is a Canyon Shelter.
There's a shelter.
Tame is shut off after exhaustion. Absolutely, Matt, you are correct. But
but there's the Essence Druid isn't going to get exhausted because if he attacks Essence Druid, it won't counter.
Yeah. Yeah,
you have to the second time.
You'd have to have something like a Lightbringer to force this Essence Druid into an attack, like remove Cobra and make Essence Druid attack. And the Herald player does not have that in this current iteration.
That was a very interesting round 1. Like, a lot of weird stuff happened, but it was cool. Like, God, the cool. Swifty. So his first 5 was Shelter, Bear Book, Monk Book, Hunt Master,
Shelter,
and can I say that?
Shelter, Swifty, Shelter, Frostback Bear, Salamander, and then Hunt Master.
The draw of Raptor Herder was actually insane. Like, so here we have some more reptile violence.
I think you just gotta let the hatchling go here.
It would be rough to use your Phoenixborn Guard this early in the turn on a 0/1. Like, I mean, potentially it gets a little damage through, but there's a lot that's going to happen this round.
Yeah.
Mills an Ice Trap.
Yep.
And the hatchling does go down.
We're in round 2. I gotta update the... Right? Yeah, we're in round 2.
So we know that he has... Man, I I just there's so many random one-ofs in this Herald deck. I just don't even know what to call. Like,
Well,
unfortunately, River Scald looks pretty bad now because uh
well, River
there's
Skull still
no
represents, like, if you do 2 damage to this Essence Druid, you've got a really good plan to get 2 damage on it with.
well, he no longer has cards in his deck that do more than one.
Okay.
The only ones are Huntmaster, and they're all gone.
Okay.
I guess
Yeah.
Accelerate costs 2.
Accelerate costs
and
one.
Massive Growth. So he has 2 Massive Growths and Accelerate that he can
Accelerate
discard.
costs 1 though. Accelerate's
I'm pretty sure it's 1. Oh, sorry. You're right. Accelerate is 1. I was thinking of Adrenaline Rush.
Yeah. Adrenaline Rush costs 2.
I wonder what the Accelerate is for. I guess it lets you like Hunter's Mark and Guide in the same turn. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. It also lets you like mark or hunt Spirit Guide, attack with like the Panther Spirit and the Hunt Master if that's a good place, and then still Canyon Shelter your
right. It gives you a shelter. It gives you a shelter save additional.
Right. So I mean, there's some synergy there with that, and it's also dice fixing, which is not terrible, especially when you're in a mill.
Debatable, but having the Canyon Shelter and the Herald in play at all times probably makes like the Accelerate essentially never going to miss a second side action.
Yeah. So see, Doktarr, did he mill or meditate or what? What happened here? Maybe I'm
we've had
again.
Inquisitor like DC and then you just DC'd.
Well, mine's been acting goofy too. Like I thought I saw him met up a nature die, but maybe
I have DC'd and I don't know it. But
sometimes Ashteki can be like this.
Well, my ping is 82. Like that should be fine.
Mine's 80.
He meditated Standard Bearer to get a turtle.
Yeah, I mean this should represent making the Hunt Master. And meditate's another one to get.
There's his other Consume Soul, so there's no consumes. The one Fate Reflection is gone. One Ice Trap is gone. 1/2 Shadows is gone.
I mean, already Herald player down to 15 cards in deck here.
Oh, I'm showing. Oh, you're counting his hand too.
Hand too, yeah. It's all part of the same win con for the Leo here.
Right, and we talked about this the other day on Tuesday, where like this Leo doesn't have any of the like no deck boosters, the Ash Spirit, Abundance, or Orchid Dove.
Right.
So he fatigues them the hard way.
Right. So you do have an interesting decision here. You can Hunter's Mark attack with both bears if the only one that can block is the Essence Druid. And if the Essence Druid does block into that, it does put 2 damage on it and exhaust the Druid, which would make it really easy for you to finish it off with this Salamander Monk Spirit or
right. I would attack with Monk Spirit too, even in that case, probably.
Well, but if he blocks the Monk Spirit, it takes no damage, and then you're
gets exhausted. Like
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I would definitely trade my Monk Spirit for exhaustion on that guy
for sure. Just need a small sacrifice.
I mean, maybe you need but until his guard is like. The Monk Spirit just looks bad when the Phoenixborn Guard and the Glowfinch are up. But I guess he's going to make 3 more units at least off the Huntmaster plus Salamander Monk.
Right. Mindfog Owl can block. That's a real block. But I think you're okay if you...
Now the attack is much worse that he has second guy that can block bear.
I still think you can make this attack, though, because the Mindfog Owl... The Mindfog Owl blocking is going to die, so you get your value. And if it doesn't block, like...
He's Hunter's marking something, so we'll see what he...
Yeah.
He may just be marking Owl. Okay, so he's marking Druid.
Yeah, I suspected this was his play pattern here, because you can just attack face here.
And then what's he get? Oh, close combat.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would do it as well.
It off the bear.
Yep, close combat will get it done here, providing no Golden Veil, right?
There are 2 Golden Veils in the deck, so if he has a Golden Veil now, it's pretty good. Though I think he would have Golden Veiled the Hunter's Mark. I'm not sure.
He probably should, right? Like, but there's the Golden
Veil. He did
Veil.
Golden Veil the close combat, which is better because it's not going to die immediately, but it's still like, I think you should.
It's in danger.
Right. Maybe the close combat is better. I don't know. It's kind of a toss up because you know that the Hunter's Mark is dangerous, and you don't know that he has the close combat, right? Like,
right. Makes an owl.
Yeah, and it's gonna get another card.
Yep. Leo's Battlefield's going to go full with another Ruby Cobra here.
Yeah, Cam, SS Drew is a messed up card. Like, card's really, really good.
I do like Doktarr's play there specifically to pressure that Golden Veil out of hand. I think that's just fine.
I would have definitely. So, my thinking would have been like, if he had the Golden Veil, he was gonna do it on the Hunter's Mark.
Right.
Like, I would have also played the close combat there.
Yep.
Nature's Wrath.
Nature's Wrath really good here because now if you Spirit Guide a bear into that Druid, you kill the Druid. And you're sitting in a position now where if you have another
I don't
Nature's Wrath, you just clear his whole board, and you've still got 2 bears left. If you are holding that
second Nature's Wrath would be insane, but
1 MG gone, massive growth gone, so we're not going to see a massive growth here.
Yeah, this being like the one matchup where massive growth is probably actually good. Does he have blood chains? Yeah, he has blood chains. Never mind. It's not good. It's never good.
Neil's still on the never good plan with massive growth here, folks.
Until decks stop playing Fester and blood chains, like, it's just not gonna be good.
So Doktarr does make the accelerate play here.
Ooh, is he gonna do something spicy?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Turtle and a horse.
Yep. Drew a card off of that. It's got 2 main action or 2 side actions remaining. And he just passed. So he just used it for dice fixing and to draw a card. Discards a Polarity Mage. So 9 cards remaining in the deck before we're in fatigue for this Herald.
Yep, I mean, he just
there's a second Nature's Wrath. That was big. That was big, chat. Big.
He's still got a lot of work to do.
He does, but he is holding, like, if your opponent makes a Ruby Cobra, what do you do? What do they do? Like, you're still representing a canyon sheltered hunt master.
He could have a master vampire. There's 2 vampires. He could have a blood archer. Man, blood archer would be good right now.
Look pretty solid.
Blood archer would be insane.
But I mean, what we're most likely going to see is, I mean, he's holding dice. He can either play Blood Archer or Master Vampire. He's holding dice for both, and the Cobra still. I mean, those are all possible plays here. Right. I'm sure it was not ideal to play double Nature's Wrath for, but one of the things is you can play out your Hunt Master and suck back a bear if you really wanted to heal a bear here.
Yeah, you have to play Hunt Master first, but yeah. So if he attacks for 4, he could do that. He could, like, Hunt Master and
because you're sort of forcing Inquisitor to say take 4 here, even if you play Knight, right? Even if he plays a Blood Archer here and gets one of the bears. I guess that's the literal best card he could have here is Blood Archer.
Blood Archer would be absolutely bonkers. That would, like, almost end the game by itself.
It's very possible.
Like, because it would just kill a bear. It'd be like make a 3/2 kill a bear. Then next turn, like I assume that you attack with your other bear and it gets Leo guarded, and then the archer shoots a bear and leaves you with a 3/1.
So he does spend a ceremonial die. What does he get
Plays
back?
a Fester.
Fester, okay. I think Fester's fine here with... You save 2 damage.
I mean, he obviously doesn't have Blood Archer because he would have slammed that into play.
Right.
We'll see if he meditates, because that'll be an indication if he has one of the 3 dice units.
The Master Vampire, yeah. Yeah. It does meditate away a blood chains to come up, so I would say that does indicate he's got one of the 3.
Vamp costs sympathy class, right? It's
so he's set up for Vampire right now. He's also set up for Blood Archer right now.
I think if he had the Blood Archer, he would have just put it into play there.
Yeah.
But
so Leo takes 2 here, getting a little damage.
He has to have something in hand. So his only options for that, he could have Second Fester, Blood Chains, or Master Vampire are the only things that he would meditate for.
Mm-hmm.
But Master Vampire
makes Cobra.
And Master Vampire would get to eat the Hunt Master. So I think he should make Hunt Master now, so that next turn he can attack with it into Cobra, assuming the Master Vampire, and then shelter it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have the attack ready before he plays Master Vamp, if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and he makes Salamander Monk, so I think that's
Monk. Okay.
I think I'm with you. I think he had a great opportunity there to make that Hunt Master do something powerful with it and protect it from Master Vampire.
Yeah, I mean, it unfortunately was just like it was probably just going to have to attack Cobra if he has the Master Vamp. If he doesn't have the Master Vamp, that Hunt Master is going to be really good.
Right.
But if he plays Master Vampire here, then you can like essentially just can't make Hunt Master.
He may have River Skull still in hand though, based on the sympathy dice.
And yeah, but it doesn't do anything.
Well, it still makes a 2/2 body that gets more damage against your opponent because he's going to have to commit that Master Vampire to the Hunt Master. So
Cobra attacking Bear.
And we see Leo Herald Guard. Yep, I think that's a good guard.
Now he has another opportunity to do the Hunt Master thing because Master Vampire did not
right
come into play.
I would imagine that's what we're going to see here. Yep. Puts the Hunt Master in play with 3 status tokens because of the stuff.
It's a little awkward because like if you want to protect the Master or the Hunt Master from potential Master Vampire, you have to attack with it, and then you can't guide anything else.
Right.
And what you want to be doing is like guiding your crappy 1/1s to kill this Cobra and whatever else he plays.
Right.
But it's very possible that we're going to have the Herald player with a large board presence going into round 3.
In comparison to the Leo player who may be just sitting on a Master Vampire, I agree with that.
If he has a Master Vampire, then the Leo player will be ahead. But if he doesn't, I mean, we're talking about 1 in 20 cards here. He's showing the dice, so it seems like he does, but
yeah, you're right.
There's only one left.
He is only filtered through somehow 20 cards or 10 cards in total.
This is what we saw the other day with this deck too, though. He just doesn't meditate very much.
No.
Which is weird because his books are expensive, right? Like,
well, the owl, but you've got a bunch of charms, so you have a really high probability of rolling. And there's the Blood Archer. So he did have the Blood Archer earlier.
Why would he not play it earlier? What could he be playing around?
I don't know. So this is not as impactful, obviously.
Still good.
It's still good. The Hunt Master is going to have a lot of opportunity here to really pressure this Blood Archer, because now you can just Spirit Guide, Panther Spirit, force the block.
I think I would have shot Salamander Monk there.
I agree, because they're a bigger threat than the Exhausted Bear is.
Yeah, and you're going to Herald Guard this anyway.
Right.
So if you had
Leo Guard, you mean?
Right, and then you would have another shoot now, which you could use on Bear. So I guess it would turn out the same.
Well, but if you would have shot the Salamander Monk and he does this attack, you have now shoot Monk's Spirit, and he doesn't have a way to kill the Archer.
Right, and
short of
attacking
the
Bear.
Right, and unless that last card is a 100% a River Scald. So yeah, you do see him eat the Salamander Monk here and attack in, and that's
this is so good.
Yeah.
Blood Archer. I think Blood Archer's crazy good.
Yep.
Especially since Charm got better. Like,
so that Blood Archer does eat that Hunt Master up.
Yeah, I
think he should have probably Canyon Shelter to protect the Archer. Or the Hunt Master,
you mean?
Yeah.
That's rough. Yeah. Like, ooh.
Oh, he's got the Raptor. Spicy. This is representing 5 damage to the Leo here, and top around to Doktarr.
It's cute that he can also shelter the the herder, but if he wants.
Killer saying Doktarr needed to swing with everything there. Yeah, it's possible that's true. Send the squad. So going to get in for 5 here on the Leo player, taking him to 11, have 8 remaining.
Good. Definitely should horsepower also.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well take a look at your next card, right, and decide whether you should bottom it.
Unless he's planning on canyon sheltering, then he needs a side action, but...
So I think the only downside to this canyon shelter on the Raptor, personally, is the main action to put it into play doesn't necessarily buy you a lot of time.
I don't know if that's actually good. I just think it's cute. I don't think it's right to do it.
Yeah. So 9 damage. My math was wrong by 1.
Right, because he only attacked for 4. So he is sheltering the herder.
Yeah. Right. Well, and because Inquisitor will pass here, and you still have the option to sympathy draw to see what that top card is. Yeah, you definitely should
horsepower, because if the top card is bad, you put it on the bottom. It doesn't actually deck you any faster.
And he did not. It just goes into round 3.
Oh, I guess he valued keeping the horse. If he has stuff in his deck that costs horse, that's definitely a reasonable thing to do, because your meditates are tight.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that he has anything that has a sympathy power in it.
Very, very interesting set of circumstances here. That last card from the Cobra is going to go, and then Three-Eyed Owl is going to look pretty powerful to strip these last 5 cards. So you either just need to play it out. This is going to be your last shot right before you start taking fatigue.
He's got a few shots. Like, he still has 14 life. Like,
sure, before he starts taking fatigue.
Right. I mean, this is the issue we saw with the Leo deck on Tuesday, was that, like, it milled him real good. It doesn't kill him right away. So
right.
It could get a couple damage through, but I bet he's gonna have two rounds left if he wants them.
Right.
So he just makes the Raptor. Okay. Does he have a side action? Is he gonna Hunter's Mark or anything? I don't think he should, but
no, I don't. Interestingly enough,
it is cute that you get an additional counter on your Huntmaster when you do that. Like,
yeah, I think that I didn't consider that part of the Huntmaster interaction.
The Huntmaster makes the accelerate better, because Guide is, like, always a fine ability. That would have been a way that he could have, like, dealt 2 to the Essence Druid, is if he Hunter's marked it, and then the following turn he played Accelerate and went Guide attack with Bear.
Mm-hmm. Also a path out of that Essence Druid. He doesn't feel like his dice spread really pressures his sympathy that much. Maybe he's got the 4 just because of the River Scalds. But he really only looks like he needs 3.
Like, he needs a Salamander, right? So that's 1 every turn. But otherwise he has, I guess you need 4, because there might be a turn where you would want to play Scald plus Huntmaster or Polarity Mage.
Right. So will we see Glowfinch into Mindfog Owl from Inquisitor here just to preserve his life? Because the Finch is probably going to get pinged away, most likely, from a Nature Ping. Does Doktarr have any sort of, like, Molten Gold, anything like that to close game? Okay, so it's just swing to win here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't know if we were looking at, needing to only get 6 damage in here.
Dead, it's kind of tough. Does he have a Raptor left? We should be able to figure out what his cards are, I guess. So he has a Raptor left. He has, oh god, 2 of those 6 cards are Call Upon the Realms.
Yeah.
I don't like that card.
I know you don't.
I mean, look at how bad it is. Like, I guess it's funny because you like want it in your last 5 so you can like skip a meditate.
Mm-hmm.
But when 2 of them are your last 5 or last 6 or whatever, then all of a sudden, like, why do you even need to meditate? You don't even have cards to play.
Sure.
Like,
so he does make the 3-eyed owl here. He's going to probably just try to strip a card.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, this is like Hunter's Market. Okay.
Yep. He's going to Hunter's Mark and
That's
send
pretty
that Salamander Monk Spirit.
It's likely that there's going to be a knight this turn. I guess not likely. It's like 50-50.
Is it? How many Master Vampires does he have?
Oh, I'm sorry. He only has the 1 Blood. I thought he had another Blood Archer too. So just the 1 Master is left.
So out of 20 cards, it's not guaranteed.
I was thinking that there was another Blood Archer also, but there is. So there's 2. 1 Blood Archer, 1 Master Vampire.
1 Blood Archer, 1 Master Vampire left in the deck?
Yes.
So there's 2 out of 20, basically.
Right. 1 in 10, roughly
about
10% right now. Like, I mean, it's not exactly like that. I don't know what the math is, but
I could get the calculator out, but I'm not going to. It's interesting that he valued using the Raptor Herder over the Salamander. I guess he wants to Canyon Shelter that Raptor back, maybe. It does represent like one of the only ways he can really win the game, right?
He doesn't have a good. There weren't one of the vamps. He doesn't have a good way. He doesn't have another good unit to shelter now.
Right.
So.
But as long as these hatchlings stay in play, he's going to run out of hatchling conjurations. That is a real problem.
I mean, are there? There's 3. Okay.
Yep. So he can only do the.
They're pretty easy to trade off.
Sure.
But.
So he does bring up that power for that Cobra. He's going to mill a card off the top that way. I mean, the last card in the deck really doesn't matter, and if you really care about it all that much, you just go ahead and Sympathy draw it.
Yeah, I don't know if he can afford to spin his dice that way right now, but it's possible. So one of his 6 cards is Summon Salamander Monk. Mm-hmm. One of his 6 cards is Raptor Herder.
Mm-hmm. 2 are
River Scald.
Yep.
Massive Growth.
Honestly, like Massive Growth, if you can set up the board state.
If he can sneak it, I mean, I guess now's the time.
So your opponent, like if you can set it up, like you can Massive Growth the bear here, potentially, but your opponent is showing potential like Fester play. And you bypass for 6 into this Leo with a bear on Massive Growth here. That's not the end of the world. If you can set it up.
He essentially has to kill Mind Fog for sure to have that happen.
Right.
And he needs to, I mean, we just saw the ceremonial meditate, so he can ceremonial power make a knight for sure, which could be an Essence Druid, which is like very difficult for him to deal with. So I'm not sure that the Massive Growth is going to do it.
Well, Massive Growth would get there still on Essence Druid. It would still kill the Essence Druid.
Swifty. Why can't I figure this card out? So Salamander Monk, Herder. Massive Growth. Oh, and 2 Call Upon the Realms.
It's got P-Mage?
No, it's in the discard pile. Swifty's in the discard. Standing Bear's in the discard.
So he does bring that Raptor back. I'd imagine now we're going to see that final Raptor come out.
Yeah, I guess.
Because next turn you can ping the Glowfinch away to remove a blocker. You have a really nice set of favorable trades into your opponent's entire board if he makes Mindfog Owl. And if he makes a...
I mean, Mindfog blocking anything is good for you if your plan is on to Massive Growth them.
Mm-hmm. And if your opponent then makes a Vamp or anything like that, like you just have opportunity to make Bear with Massive Growth to eat their Vamp. You know, so like you still get there at the cost of 1 life compared to getting in for 2 or whatever that the bear would normally get in for. So now you have to make Mindfog Owl here, right? If you're Inquisitor. Or you make the knight.
The deck list you have posted on this list on the website has 29 cards in it.
Oh, from Doktarr?
That's why I can't figure out what the 6th card is.
Okay.
So the last card in his deck was a Call upon the Realm, so that's the ideal place for it.
Did you click the link through? There should be a link through on Doktarr's list.
Oh, to see, okay. 12, 13, 22. Yeah, okay, so... Oh, there's another Consume Soul that wasn't on the list that's on the website. So he has a Consume Soul.
Okay.
As one of his 6 cards.
Well, and we just saw Crescendo here to take care of the bear this round. So no bear, massive growth bears this round.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to make it very difficult.
Last card that was milled was a Call Upon the Realm, so that's why we didn't see the dice spend to draw it, because there was no value in drawing it. Although it is what it is. So Doktarr does ping away the Glowfinch here, so we will see these raptors in this...
A crack for 5.
Yeah, so you're going to crack in for 3 at least, because you would assume that one of the 2 attack hatchlings will get blocked by a Cobra here.
Yeah, we'll see how he decides to block.
You know what's interesting, though, is this block, if he does block, it does turn on that Consume Soul. Because you do not have to consume a marked target.
Do you think Inquisitor's looking at the deck list and is confused about it as me? And now trying to figure out what his opponent has?
I don't know.
Collusion!
I don't know. Yeah.
Collusion!
All right, so Cobra blocks the Monk Spirit. He's gonna.
I wondered if that would be the case.
It does turn off that last Consume Soul if that's what you're worried about. So I think that's a pretty good.
Right. It keeps you a Cobra for next round, which obviously the mill doesn't matter anymore, but it's an additional blocker.
Right.
Because again, we know that the Leo deck needs to go at least another round.
Does Inquisitor have redirect? Does Inquisitor have redirect here?
I don't know. My deck list got messed up because I went to the...
Because that would also save him another 2 damage, potentially. And
I mean, I would probably redirect here. I don't know that you're going to get better than that. Unless you really think that he's going to sneak a massive growth on you somehow, then you hold it.
Yeah, it's...
He does not have redirect, though.
Okay, and he's also given up on the Master Vampire play, so all he's got left is a Blood Archer play. Which Blood Archer looks pretty good here dealing with these raptors.
Blood Archer is just as good, if not better.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have Sympathy Pain either, so like, doesn't really matter what you do here.
Right. All right. So yep, Inquisitor going down to 5 health remaining. 19.
5 left.
Yeah, 5 left.
Okay.
There is 13 left on the Herald player here. I missed the snake attack.
I wish he had a Generosity. How sweet would it be if he played Generosity here and untapped the
bear?
I was going to say the Canyon Shelter, but the bear would probably be better.
Yeah. All day, Neil. The bear is better than the Canyon Shelter. Just saying.
The Canyon Shelter would be better if it's still at a Huntmaster under it.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all, but that's not what he's got there. So, yeah, this is tricky now because the Salamander Monk has a hard time getting any value unless you massive growth it, right? So,
well, the massive growth is a forced block now, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The massive growth, lethal. The massive growth would force the Mindfog Owl to block, which would turn on the Consume Soul, but it wouldn't kill the Salamander. So then, what do you do?
I still don't think massive growth is good here, unless he thinks he's going to get through somehow. He can make we know he can make an additional monk if he plays Monk Book.
But the Consume Soul's probably pretty good here just to turn on the Hunter's Mark, assuming that we're going to get, and a Ninja.
So he's decided not to play Blood Archer. He's decided to play Imperial Ninja.
I like Ninja. It's a way to get rid of the hand here.
What does this card even do?
It forces you to discard from the deck or the
If they
hand.
discard fewer than 2 cards, okay. When it attacks.
Yeah.
All right. What a weird card. Is this what this card used to do, or did this get reprinted?
I have no idea.
Somebody smarter than me in chat, tell me what this card used to do. That's such a weird card, man.
It is.
And it's 2 charm class?
Yep.
Ugh.
I like it in a mill deck. I like it in a first 5 in a mill deck.
It's just weird that I don't like it in first 5. It's good now. It's bad in first 5. In first 5, your opponent has the cards to mill.
River Skull looks pretty good here to kill the ninja.
Oh, the Massive Growth did something.
Yes, it did. Killed the ninja.
Ah, got him.
So now you really are in a place where, I mean...
So what could he... So how many... There's 2 Festers and 2 Blood Chains left.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a Fire Archer.
Blood Chains looks pretty good into the River Skull here. If you've got a Blood Chains here to double exhaust that River Skull, which he does. So that takes the River Skull out of the equation here.
Yeah, I mean, that was really good.
Not the end of the world, but I think if you're Inquisitor here, or a Herald player here...
So he frogged the other Cobra, all right? Yep.
So, I mean...
So he's not planning on winning this turn, because...
Yeah, he can't... Oh, now he can. No, he can't. No, he can't. He's got lethal on those attacks, but the Mindfog Owl will block for 2. He'll get 2 in. Take him to 16.
Right. And I assume he has nothing to do with this turtle.
Yeah.
Look like... Oh, he has the Consume.
Yeah.
So I guess he wouldn't even play it, though.
Herald blocked that attack? Is that what happened?
Or is Herald attacking?
Nope. He just straight out Mindfog Owl takes 1 here and kills the... Inquisitor uses the Mindfog Owl to attack the Raptor. That does turn off the group tactics. That's a good play here. So we'll see Salamander attack Mindfog. I'm sure this will bait the Leo block here.
This doesn't recover, does it? Okay.
No. I don't think if you're Inquisitor, you want to go into the top of the round when you go first with no units in play against that board, because you're going to die. You might die anyways, but...
He Leo blocked. Okay. So... Wait. What happened here? Oh, okay, sorry. I saw the Salamander Monk was like far left for me.
Oh, okay.
And then it moved back, and I thought it like left behind a tapped Monk Spirit for some reason.
No.
But obviously it just got tapped and moved back to where it was in the order of units.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like...
Okay, and then another Blood Chains. So he is going to go in with no units, but this is going to remove a unit, at least for a while.
Mm-hmm.
A Raptor?
Probably a hatchling, wouldn't you? They represent the biggest amount of damage on your opponent's board.
I think that's correct. But I mean, there's something to be said about Salamander also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he chooses the untapped hatchling.
Yeah. But I think you're still dead though, because I guess he can make Glowfinch. He can make 2 units because he make Glowfinch.
He's not dead.
Yeah, because he's got Glowfinch still available.
Yeah, here. I mean we're gonna play a long round here where the Herald has a Call Upon the Realms and a Consume Soul.
Right.
And a Raptor Herder hiding in the canyon.
Right. Herald takes 3, going down to 10.
God, this.
We got 13 minutes left before sudden death here, so these guys are gonna probably have to play pretty quick here.
Sudden death obviously kills Herald, but I think you can easily finish this game in 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Like.
The rolling 2 frogs is really awkward for the Herald player here, or the Leo player here, because if he makes, let's say, a 3-eyed owl and a Glowfinch, you ping the Glowfinch away and you attack, you get in for 2, 4, 5, 6, blocking 2 takes 4, lethal. And that's lethal, right? So So I'm not sure you can actually get around it if you're Inquisitor here.
Well, let's see what Inquisitor's things are. I don't think it matters, Matt. Because I think the game is going to end this round.
Right.
But
It really boiled it really boiled down to the frog ping rolls here for Doktarr. If he doesn't roll those frogs, then I think the Leo player has a chance to stabilize the board and get back into this thing. But
you're right, Matt. I think it would have been slightly better to hit a tapped one.
So he does make the Glowfinch. I'm assuming we'll see the owl. Yep. And this is a concession play essentially here because Doktarr's...
I'm looking to see. It doesn't look like he has anything. So again,
so we do see the ping on the Glowfinch. Gonna watch this Herald finish the game with attacking all 4 units here for 6. Owl will block 2. He'll suffer 4 damage, which is Xaxes.
Yep. This and we saw the same thing happen to Leo on Tuesday. Also, like it does a very efficient job at putting your opponent on 0 cards, but it doesn't actually kill you in this game. So,
all right, very well played.
Very cool game, and
yeah.
I love the Canyon Shelter, man. It wasn't like an aggressive amount of canyon sheltering, but the value he got from it was very high.
And Doktarr said this was a really good matchup for his deck. That's interesting. I didn't feel like as we were commentating, it felt like
it was much wider than I expected it to be, and that comes from the double units under the canyon, right? And this is obviously wildly different than Heralds that we saw last season, where they were. Obviously, there was a lot of unit combat in this game, but all it was last season was unit combat. There was like almost no Herald attacking phase, and this deck just went straight to face a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
Because it just when you play a guy that makes 2 guys and you shelter it, it's so good, man.
It is.
Because he made 2 Raptors out of it and a Huntmaster.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that really
too much value. Look at the board, right? They traded kind of card for card throughout the game. It's just that Doktarr's cards were left like little guys behind.
Yeah, and again, this is they're having a conversation basically about how if Inquisitor had nature, he would have probably been in much better shape. And I agree.
This deck looks soft to Nature's Wrath.
Looks like any sort of AoEs. But... yeah. But yeah, this is obviously very well played by both players.
That was a cool game.
It was cool. It was very cool to watch, and
also because of Canyon Shelter, but
it did a lot of work, man.
Sweet.
It did a lot of work. It's not like it got actual dice value when you started doing the canyons on the Raptors, but it gave you.
It was still really good.
Oh yeah, no. It gave you another dice to use on Raptor, right? So it sort of extended your dice out.
Raptors got to attack. So even if the worst thing it did was Raptor hack or herder attack and deal 1 to Leo through a Phoenix Guard or whatever, getting that 1 attack in and then resetting it, that's definitely a 2 dice unit worth, because you in that case you essentially spent time class plus whatever Raptor costs to make 2 1/1s and the O2 with group tactics.
I do think Doktarr had made comments about wanting to change his dice spread, that he registered the wrong dice spread. So I'm wondering if he did intend to shrink one of those sympathies down and run another...
It did seem like he had too many sympathies, but...
Yeah, it does feel that way. I don't remember what he said in Discord about it, but very well played by both players. Obviously Inquisitor is a great player. Yeah, Doctor says yes, exactly. So,
yeah.
When we watched it, I can see exactly why you would want that. 1 more natural, 1 less sympathy. Yeah, that's what we thought too, watching the match, Doktarr. But very cool to see Canyon Shelter work that way.
It was sweet.
Yeah, and I like the synergy with the Huntmaster and the Accelerates and the Hunter's Mark. I mean, all of those things are very positives.
Yeah, he just has the one Accelerate, and in that game it looked really bad because he didn't even take another side action after doing it.
Right.
But
I mean,
it does seem good because you have Hunter's Mark and Shelter, and then like 90% of the time you have Guide.
Yeah. But you kind of have to, right? Because he's milling you so hard. You really didn't have much choice but to preserve your meditates, and so that was just spend 1 die to get 2 dice of the type you want and draw a card.
Obviously you won the game, so it like didn't hurt you, but
yeah. So very cool to see that deck, man. That's a super awesome deck. Really neat to see, and I'm excited to see how you do as you progress further through this tournament. I know that marks your first win, but that may not be the last one. So, in fact, I would imagine that a lot of decks are going to have a hard time fighting through what you're presenting there, because there's a lot of value in every unit that you're putting onto the board. So, all right. Well, Neil, we made it to 8:30. We got a feature match in for round 3. Remember, guys, if you want to play your feature matches, it gets you extra tickets for the prize drawing here at the end of Swiss. We're exactly halfway through the Swiss rounds now. So we've got 3 more Swiss rounds remaining.
And you should do it anyway because it's cool.
Yeah. And if you've been on stream already, don't hesitate to register, because clearly we're not getting a bunch of volunteers here for this, even with the raffle prizes as a value for that. So please use the link in the Discord, register your games, even if you've already been on stream. We would rather cover games than not. So nobody wants to hear Neil and I wax on about Frostback Bear for another hour anywhere. So let's make that happen. But this has been Shufflebus Season 5 Round 3 action for you. We will be back Tuesday of next week with Round 4 and then Round 5. So we're a week and a half from the end of Swiss already. Hard to believe. Moving fast, but that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get through this season. In case you missed it, on the Discord, Shufflebus invites have been sent out to all players who have qualified. So you did get your invite already. I have sent them to everybody. Any competitors that make top 8 this season will get invites postseason for the invite. That invite is being planned for December 11th. We're starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's GMT -4. There will most likely be 4 or 5 rounds of Swiss, depending on the number of competitors that can make that invite date on a single day event. And we're going to have a full day of coverage for you all on that. So buckle up. It's going to be a great time. I'm excited to see that. And we'll get to crown a world champ. So I'm really, really excited to see who gets to claim the title of the best Ashes player in the world for this Shufflebus season. All right. Neil, do you have anything else you want to add to the stream tonight before we close it out?
No, I mean, I told you before in the preview show that I really wanted to see that Canyon deck because it was wild, and it didn't disappoint. It was pretty sweet. So,
it was. I want to play it now.
You should sign up for more on-stream games, Doktarr, because I like watching that deck.
I want to play it now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go grab the share link and I'm gonna load it into my decks and I'm gonna try to play it. It looks fun. It looks like the kind of deck that I would like to play. So I'm excited to test it against other players and see how it goes and things that I think we could use or whatever. But really cool idea and concept. Obviously, we've seen shelter decks really try to push the value, and you're doing that with the Huntmaster for sure. But just being able to pull Raptor is a nice secondary there. Cam, we're super excited for the Invitational. You should try to qualify, man. I think you can do it this season. I believe in you.
Yeah, he should try to qualify. No, change your plan, Cam, from losing your next 3 rounds to winning them instead. That's my advice for how to be good at Ashes.
That's right. It's this really sound advice, I promise. So, all right. Well, let's wrap up tonight. I've got my match Friday night, so Hounds will be in action again Friday night. I don't think I'll stream it. I might record it. I don't know. It's another Xander matchup. It's like the literal worst thing for me to have to play against is Xander. Lots of health and AoE galore is just not where my deck wants to be. It's just not built to fight those kinds of Phoenixborns. So, I built this deck with the idea that I was going to fight a bunch of O2s and weenie guys, and I have seen exactly 0 of that in this tournament. the way my parents have worked up.
We've seen a lot of them in the tournament. You just haven't paired against them.
No, I haven't paired against them. I know, that's what I'm saying. I've seen exactly 0 of that. So, I mean, it's kind of a sad day for me when I don't get that sort of value. But yeah, it is what it is. So we'll see how we can do. Well, my opponent is somebody that I have met. He was in the Kansas City tournament, so I'm excited to play against somebody that I've met personally.
That's cool.
Yeah, so yep, we'll see how it goes. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday next week. Take care. Good luck in round 3.